Welcome again, and thanks to our speakers sharing the expertise today. I hope you can stay the entire day with us and sharing. Welcome startups and innovators pitching. Welcome attendees on site. I do welcome everybody out there. You see me, but I don't see you in the stream. I did a lot of work of dissipating the stream today. I hope it works well. So, one experience I made, we do on further events which hopefully will take place, we are going to refrain from remote pitches. Remotes are useless. And you just see a black hole as a picture. You are not aware, we are not in a cinema, and life, tell you, especially the forest life, is not virtual, I have to tell you. Life is not virtual, so everybody stemming from Europe must move the little tiny asses here, or they stay away. The only exception will be made from presenters for preventers from overseas. I have to utter some shame on those, especially public institutions, who, this is I have to switch off, yeah, who with short-term notice canceled their appearance here. And I promise them we will not invite them again, because this is somehow a bad appreciation of our efforts to be with here. Many thanks to SWISS KRONO, of course, for hosting us the second time in this setting. Many thanks to the city of Wittstock. The two ladies, where are they, of Wittstock? Talk to those ladies who are in charge of the incoming for the city of Wittstock. And I may mention additionally, we have a sculpture today, as this wooden sculpture. Where is the artist? Where are you? So he is the artist, so you may touch it and examine it and ask for prizes, whatever you will do. It's a nice decoration, entirely grafted from wood. So, and I will ask this afternoon, we plan to do a forest excursion by today for tomorrow in the morning. Who will join us? I'm asking this today as well. So, welcome again, and I cede the word to Henrik Hecht, one of the member of the board of SWISS KRONO here in Wittstock. And have a good, enjoyable day. I'm doing the moderation the entire day, so ask me this evening how I feel after the entire day. So welcome again, and enjoy your day, and have a good network efforts. Henrik.
Yeah, thanks Ulf for your introduction. I reach out to you and say hello to everybody and welcome to our beautiful design station of SWISS KRONO. So I'm Henrik Hecht. I'm the managing director of SWISS KRONO here in Heiligengrabe, close to Wittstock, and I would like to share some words with you concerning the framework we are in. And I thought a little bit about the framing, or how to put a frame around our program, what we have today. And I thought maybe as we are all more or less specialists in our field, we know about the urgency of doing and not only speaking, but nevertheless, I have put together some numbers and some, spotlights. I thought maybe I start with a very local approach. So it's about Brandenburg, and you see the very fast deterioration of the status of the trees in Brandenburg, as coming from 50-50 of, let's say, healthy trees in our forests coming to just 8 out of 100. Quite a shocking number, I would say. To broaden the view a little bit, going to Spain, I think most of you have also seen the headlight, which has found interest not only in the fields of specialists, but also for the broader audience. So a serious drought in Spain since a very long time. The results is, how to say, were also be seen in our local Bild-Zeitung, in the yellow press, saying that olive oil will be scarce in very short future. This is a view on my hometown, coming to precipitation in the last month. So just 13 liters we've got. Finally, this was unprecedented, never have been so low recorded. Okay, we had some raindrops the last days, but once you dig a little bit into the soil, you see that it's still very, very dry. To even go across the ocean to America, the last news, what we have seen in the TV, in the major TV channels, was the smoke in New York, coming from forest fires in Canada. When you think it's a big city, and Canada is, let's say, far away, but a very severe impact, and this Corona mask became popular again because of bad climate in New York City. So one of the last slides here was some news about a big change in water temperature across the globe, but especially seen in the North Atlantic Ocean. Never been so warm recorded since ever. And the question is it the end of the world? For sure, it's not the end of the world. And we are here together to find and to put this in this context, to find ways to tackle with all the different consequences arising from it. So it's a very, how to say, in German, with the direct translation, I would say it's a very high term, but it's a very ambitious goal. But it's about saving the world and rescue the world. And what is our contribution? Our contribution of SWISS KRONO. I think most of you are familiar with the concept of the European Bauhaus. So building the environment, the human environment out of wood. And by this to store the carbon dioxide in products which is used for our environment, meaning houses, furnitures, whatever structures are built by humans. And our contribution is that we develop this kind of products, that we bring innovations also into our products to broaden the range of wooden products, and to help that this stored carbon in the wood will be never ever released again in the atmosphere. This is our contribution, and I think also our common goal to find quick ways to get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And we are here together and very curious what kind of solutions maybe also today we will see, and what we will put into practice. And therefore I say hello everybody again, welcome, and let's find some new solutions and new prospects for rescuing the world. That's it. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Hendrik. I always knew that you have some world rescuer spirit in your mind, and well, I would not claim that we are going to rescue the world, but we are trying hard as we are lining today some really interesting startups. One of the very first will be a startup from South Korea, as I mentioned, which is trading with lignin innovation, which has been awarded with the World Economic Forum as well. And for getting some insights, I guess, Mr. Böning, you want to introduce Wittstock a little bit to the audience, where we are, how close to Berlin we are, that the cost of living is significantly lower than in Berlin. You pay half of the prices as like for rental apartments in Berlin. And by the way, SWISS KRONO was a green meadow settling. So they did not invest in an existing company, but this was a green meadow settling. And we had a tour yesterday, and in the meantime, they are always complete with buildings on their surface, and they recently acquired some 60 hectares extra for increasing the business over the little train railway. And well, it's a nice success story, what you can do with wood. I was really impressed again. So to get familiar, there's a showroom beside. You may cruise there in the coffee breaks to get familiar which kind of products SWISS KRONO produces. Not only in Wittstock, they have several factories, but Wittstock is one of the biggest ones they have. So, and talk to the SWISS KRONO guys in the matter of potential cooperation or investment. SWISS KRONO is still a family-owned company. So, and this is a big advantage. You're not talking to UPM or Metza, or we have a speaker for Metza, but these companies are simply too big for startups. Though they claim other things, but they're pretty big. And there's still a family, a private owner behind SWISS KRONO, so the opportunity window is open for you. So, Mr. Böning, introduce Wittstock to us. Huh? Ah, yeah, okay. Yeah. Also first I was introduced, yeah. This is live. We have first Ulrike Hagemann, who was one of the very few speakers, or we were reaching out to her from the public administration. I'm a big fan of public administration, as you hear from me, who confirmed to be here with us, because I guess roughly some 50% of the German wood we have a lot of wood in Germany, fortunately, is owned by federal states, and kind of church, federal state, city of Berlin, which is, by the way, one of the biggest city forest owners in Europe, with 32,000 hectares of wood. So this is a lot of wood, and as a hunter, I'm always very proud to cruise in woods. I promise you this. But I'm not a shooter. I'm a hunter, enjoying nature and forest. So, yeah. Welcome on stage, Ulrike. Where is she? Ulrike, yeah. And introducing us, she's stemming from the so-called Brandenburg Competence Center in Forests, doing interesting stuff, and with stuff she is going to introduce us. Welcome, Ulrike.
Yes, thanks for the introduction, thanks for the invitation. Good morning. I say dear colleagues because I consider all people that work around forests and timber to be colleagues. You read my name is Ulrike Hagemann. I am actually head of the State Forestry Research Center of Brandenburg, but only have been in that position for 1 year, and I am head of a small research institute in the jacket of the Forest Administration, so it's a nice mixed position. When I was first asked to come here to give a short impulse, I didn't actually know I would end up speaking first and opening the first session. But I wasn't asked to present research results, but I was rather asked to set the tone and kind of summarize the great challenges for the forest and timber sector. And to be honest, that's actually quite an unpleasant task, because it actually means in 6 minutes that it's mainly going to be a repetition of the challenges that all of you know and that I know very well, ranging from climate change to forest loss, forest fires, and so on. So I actually don't want to walk through that list, because you all know the names of those individual challenges. Instead, I would rather like to stress 2 points. One of it, I think, things that many parts of society have been surprised of, and actually in reality, is the unprecedented speed of change that we're observing, and all the associated effects of climate change that come along, and we can, as I said, witness them almost day by day now. And the second thing is that I think many of us aren't fully aware of, is the risk of us reaching certain tipping points. So points when the system actually changes, where, first of all, dynamics of change will further speed up, and second of all, some of the effects that are happening might actually become irreversible. So those are 2 things that apply to more than one of these challenges. So let me try for a little different take. What could these large-scale developments actually translate to in practice? Again, I tried to list a few specific challenges that range from the migration of new pests and forest diseases into our region, higher costs resulting from a number of aspects like forest firefighting, but also all the way to the fact that we actually have a lack of sufficiently trained staff out in the forest, and I guess probably also in the factories. And that's the thing that's not going to change within a day or 2. Once again, I would like to point out 2 things in particular that apply to several sectors. One of us is that all of us, due to the change, we're all of us acting in times of high uncertainty, which means that we have to make decisions despite the uncertainty we have, so to the best of the knowledge we have today, tomorrow, and the day after. So even in a week, if we know, wait, we should have done it differently, it doesn't mean we shouldn't make the decision today, because we don't have the time to actually wait. And the second thing is, I see that due to those speed of changes, we risk slipping into a mode of constant reaction rather than pre-action. Because something's happened and we react, something's happened, we react. I think what we really still need to do is, to the best of our knowledge, use our system understanding to look ahead and say, well, let's still try to go 1 or 2 steps ahead of what's happening, if we can. So basically, there's plenty to tackle for all of us. And my observation is that there's no lack of ideas. There's actually a wealth of ideas for solutions, for strategies. But what really worries me is that many of those potential solutions and strategies are often sold as the one universal truth, as the only thing, the only way ahead. And that leads to a polarization that I think is actually hindering us in getting ahead. One example is the increasing segregation of forest protection, forest utilization, which I'm actually worried about, because when I studied, 15 years ago, or even in the 90s, we were talking about integrated, multifunctional forest management. And now I see strong tendencies for forest protection, forest utilization, other forest functions of becoming increasingly separated and segregated. But finding solutions, I think, shouldn't be about trying to be right. It should be about, particularly in the forest sector where we're working on an ecosystem, it should be about stepping back and taking a systems perspective. And in the end, I think that means that all of us will have to change our ways of thinking and of doing things. None of us could say, it's like, oh, we'll just continue the way we did. And in some ways, I think that means we need to have more diversity at all levels. Out in the forest, looking at more species diversity. Probably in the factories, looking at more product diversity, more production ways that are more diverse, and also in the workforce. And also with respect to ideas. So diversity at all levels. I think we need more collaboration between all actors, and I think that's one of the reasons for why I am here today, because I think we need to just speak and interact more. And also, what would help is more courage to sometimes simply try out things. I know scientists aren't the best at that, because we try out things, but we never really make clear recommendations, because we We can never be 100% sure, but that's science. But as I said before, we need to make decisions and start acting. So I think also as scientists, we have to start giving more recommendations, saying, yeah, they're uncertain, but to the best of our knowledge today, I think that's the way we should go. So how does this relate to my own field of forest research? All of what I said before. In the way is, I think what we need to do, at least for us, we need to adapt our short and long-term research sites, experimental sites, to the new challenges and questions we had. It sounds pretty trivial, it isn't. But in the end, it actually means placing a stronger focus on the practical relevance of our research. I know it's also a thing that scientists aren't naturally inclined to do, because often we're just interested to find out things because we're interested in finding out things. But as I said, I think we, as science, have to contribute to finding new ways, and as that, we need to have a better dialogue with stakeholders from all sectors of society in order to actually engage in a dialogue when we derive our research questions. It's some kind of participatory action research 2.0. So that's why I'm here, and I think we should use events like this today to exchange our ideas, to exchange our perspectives, and I'm looking forward to meeting you and to hearing yours. Thank you for your attention.
Ulrike, my compliments. Yeah, it was a pretty nice presentation for a public representative. Yeah. I have to be honest. I'm honest with this, and hope Professor Schwarz will add something that's thrilling, like you did as well. And I'm, by the way, looking forward for a closer cooperation with your university in future, and because you're close by. And I recently get aware of this the forest of Korin, which is close in the Schorfheide area, was nominated being the forest of the year, and for its way how they do forestry, combining nature protection, forestry, and economic usage of forests, and just something very nice. And you should use, if you have some spare time, go to Schorfheide. It's really interesting, where all our emperors and everybody who was at the top of this country used to hunt, which was a very German tradition, until it is, of course. So, Martin, you're representing the city of Wittstock. This is the small city behind us, and this way, but primarily behind us. I guess you're proud to have the longest maintained, conserved city wall construction in Europe, something like that. So this is in particular for our British guys. The British are really fantastic. When I was in Cornwall, by the way, last year, it was like crossing a bridge from the 11th or 12th century and expecting orcs to attack me. This was fascinating. So it's the same like here, and there are no orcs in Wittstock, don't worry. And maybe if you sometimes look at people, you may consider them being orcs. But Martin, tell us about your city.
Yeah. Welcome to Wittstock. My name is Martin Bünning, and I'm the head of the Department of Urban Development here in this city of Wittstock. And today I'm here to send greetings from our mayor, Mr. Germann. He cannot be here today with us, but he asked me to come, and on behalf of our mayor and also as a request of Ulf Leonard, I would like to give you an idea of who we are and what Wittstock is about. I'll try to keep it short. Maybe the first thing you should know about us is that we are located in the northern part of the capital region, the German capital region. That means the metropolitan area of Berlin. And at the same time, this is one of our most important advantages of location. It only takes 1 hour by car to Berlin, and there you have access to the whole infrastructure that our capital offers. And very important is to say that you have access there to knowledge. I think you all know how important knowledge is for business, and in the capital region of Berlin and the area around, we have about 50 universities and research institutes, as well as 200 specialized institutes. So there's a lot of knowledge here in our region. This is very important, of course, for all businesses. And we have also only 1 hour to Rostock, where we have access to the Baltic Sea region, and Hamburg is well known internationally, I think, is also very close. So this is a macro level on our region, so let's switch to the micro level. Here you can see the old city center of Wittstock, and you can see our conference venue of today, the design station of SWISS KRONO. There's a mark where we are right now. And Wittstock is a very old city. It's one of the oldest cities in the German capital region, first mentioned in the year 946. And this is why Wittstock is still very much characterized by its medieval style. You mentioned our own town wall. It's a very old wall, and it's made of bricks. It's very nice. You can walk around there. It's about 2,500 meters. It's a nice walk, maybe in a break, or when you visit us again. Today, Wittstock has around about 15,000 inhabitants, and these people live here because the metropolitan areas are close, but here you can find very nice and beautiful landscape around, and it's not so much expensive and not so busy, and there's not so much traffic like in Berlin, for example. So this is what people love to live here. And because this is a wood innovation forum, I can tell you that Wittstock is the owner of a large forest area. Ulf said Berlin owns 3.2 thousand hectares. We are the owner of 3.5 thousand hectares. Yeah? This is Wittstock, ladies and gentlemen, and we are managing it by ourselves. The head of our forestry department, Mr. Bischoff, is here today as well, and SWISS KRONO is one of our main customers. And of course, we also have the challenges to solve, like Henrik Hecht told us about the trees and so on. So there's a lot of work to do. And forestry, as well as farming, is a very important sector in our region. And I can show you this on this slide. I tried to explain. This figure illustrates the importance and the development of different sectors here in our local region, Wittstock and Heiligengrabe. Heiligengrabe is the place where the factory of SWISS KRONO is located, directly next to us. And the data takes into account the number of employees in sum, as well as the development of the employment and the regional specialization of these sectors. Regional specialization means the proportion in relation to the rest of the country. Yeah? And the 0 level marks the average of the capital region. And what we can see here is that 2 sectors are very important here in our region. It's the manufacturing sector and the farming and forestry sector. Both sectors are very relevant because they're above the average of the capital region. And of course, Mr. Hecht, SWISS KRONO has a deep impact to this data with the people who work in the factory and as well on the forestry sector. So now you may have an idea of what Wittstock is about, a very small city in the rural capital region of Germany. And as a small town, we cannot find solutions for all challenges by ourselves and alone. So what our approach is and what our philosophy is cooperation and collaboration. Ulrike Hagemann also said how important collaboration is in these fields. And I would like to give you an example of what collaboration in Wittstock is about. This building, Henrik Hecht knows it well, is the old locomotive shed. And this picture is from the year 2017. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the place where we are right now. So this is a very good example of what cooperation means in our region. It's a project of the city of Wittstock and SWISS KRONO Group, and we are very proud of it. And now we can have here conferences, and we can make business here, or the SWISS KRONO can make business here. And this is a very good example of successful cooperation in our region. So what we do is offer cooperation and space. Space for people with new ideas and courage. It's also very important, I think. And what we also can provide is access to our partners and networks. I have a very short list of partners and networks only. It's only a selection, but maybe relevant for your businesses. One partner we have is the WFBB. It is an economic development agency of the capital region. Someone is here today, Peter Quass. Peter, kannst du mal aufstehen? Yeah, it's one of our partners, and they are professional in funding and technology transfer and so on in the German capital region. Another partner on the regional level is the Regional Development Agency, who care about regional development and business development. And we are very proud that we have a very important partner here in this region, and this is our Regional Entrepreneurs Association. It's a very difficult name. It's called Wachstumskern Autobahndreieck Wittstock-Dosse. Yeah, hey, we are in Germany, so, but it doesn't matter. It's about the content, not the name. And the content of this Entrepreneurs Association is to provide B2B contacts, technology transfer, and also joint campaigns, for example, recruiting professionals. And Mr. Hecht is one of the members of the board of this association, and it's very important that 40 companies, entrepreneurs in our region, as well as municipalities, come together and care about the development of our region. The last partner on this slide is our municipal housing management. So it's also very important to ask where people live, and they manage around about 2,500 flats, and this is also a very important partner for us. Yeah, so if you have any questions to our city of Wittstock, or maybe you're interested to start business directly, closely in the neighborhood of SWISS KRONO here in Heiligengrabe, yeah, you can speak to us. Be sure that we will offer our cooperation and our networks for you. And unfortunately, I cannot stay here the whole time, but my colleagues, my charming colleagues, Nadine Furch and Katrin Lübke, will stay here the whole time. Please don't hesitate to speak to them, and yeah, also on behalf of our mayor, Mr. German, I would like to wish you a successful conference and a good spirit for innovation and cooperation. So thank you very much.
So thanks, Martin, and do not forget. Hello, yeah. Do not forget to invite me for your hunting day. Okay, got it. Well, yeah, some personal remarks. And the next and first remote pitch we have for Meta Group, is he online? Okay, yes, go ahead.
I am here.
Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Welcome. It's a great pleasure to be here. Yes, now I can be seen on the screen. So first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Ulf Leonhard, for the opportunity to talk to you today. We think that these type of events are very important for the forest-based bioeconomy. There's very few opportunities for new innovations to be discussed within the forest-based sector. So therefore, I'm very happy that this has been organized. Today, I will be talking to you about the topic of what do investors look for when investing in the forest-based bioeconomy. I just shared the slides, so let me know when you can see them, and I noticed that they just came on the screen. So I'm heading the venture capital investment activities within Metsä Group. Metsä Group is a large forest industry group. Our headquarters is in Finland, but we operate within Europe, and we have sales operations close to 30 countries globally. When you're talking with an investor, it's good to understand what is the purpose and the focus of the investor. Regarding Metsä Group, we focus on first-class northern wood products that are produced in a sustainable way. So, for example, if there would be products related to bamboo, those would not fit into our investment focus area. So similarly, as if you're talking with us or if you're talking with some other corporate investor, it's good to understand what is the angle, what is the purpose of that cooperation in order to find the right partners for you and focus your vision regarding that. It's also good to understand the business of the companies that you discuss with. For example, at Metsä Group, we have 5 different business areas, around 7 billion euros of revenue. Our main largest business area relates to Metsä Fibre, in which we are building a 2 billion euro pulp mill in northern Finland. So we have a lot of softwood pulp. We're the largest softwood market pulp producer. So naturally, we are interested in opportunities to relate to further processing of this type of pulp products to higher value applications. Also, we're interested, for example, in sawdust and wood bark, how these side streams can be utilized more efficiently. Ulf previously mentioned that it is difficult to collaborate with large companies, and I agree. However, this comes down to the fact that you need to understand how to do the collaboration. Within Metsä Group, what we have done is that we have a separate venture capital and innovation arm that we use to collaborate with startups. So we are a small group of around 10 people, and we can move very quickly and flexibly, and we don't have to, how would I say, go through all the large company processes. So there's ways how to do the startup collaboration in smooth way, and we also try to help the companies that we invest in. When talking with investors, you need to understand the industry focus areas. Do they invest in new materials or chemical products or digital solutions? Our focus is on new materials and chemical products. You need to understand what is the stage that the investor looks at. Are those the early stage opportunities that have just been how do I say, founded from the laboratory, or are they more later stage opportunities where you're already growing a business that is profitable and existing? And then it's good to also look at what is the ticket size, how much is the investor able to invest, and what are your funding requirements. So these are some of the main things to look at, but it's also good to see what are the other benefits that the investor can bring. Can they help you connect to your network? Can they secure the feedstock, or if it's a financial investor, can they, for example, help you to build the team and find a product market fit to help you grow the business? Regarding the phase that the investors look, this is also an important part. In the very early phases, there's more funding available, but when we talk about material technologies, at a certain stage, you need to start making production. Typically, this is through building a pilot plant or a demonstration plant before you can go to the industrialization phase. And here you need to show that the technology scales from the laboratory, so you need to understand how much technology risk is the investor willing to take. Then in the scaling phase, you also need to understand, is there a demand for the product? How mature is the business idea? Who is willing to buy the product? So there's also the market maturity. So you need to understand, does the investor require that you already have sales? Do they require that you have letters of intent, or do they require that your business idea is very developed, so you have already reached a profitability? So everything depends on what are your current situations, and then how can you find the right investors for you. This is just to show a couple of examples of what type of investments we have made. We've invested in some internal startups that process pulp to textile fiber or to packaging products, but then we have also invested in a variety of startup companies, external startup companies that process woody side streams into composite materials or bioactive ingredients for cosmetics, chemical industry, and also make insulation materials. So there's a lot of different opportunities related here, and you need to look into what is the portfolio of the investor when you're discussing with them. And as a last point, I would like to show just a list of some key things to focus on. So you need to show that you have a strong team that has the ability to execute the business plan. If you're missing some competencies, it's good to be open and transparent about it and say how you can fill these in. So maybe we do not have the production know-how, but we can hire this type of resource, and perhaps we have identified a couple of candidates already. Then you can show that you have a unique technology, mention that the product can be patentable or the process can be patentable. Maybe you have some other type of intellectual property rights. The investor also looks what are the tree species that you're able to utilize and how available and sustainable are these. For example, at Metsä Group, the trees that we source, for each tree that gets harvested, on average 4 new trees get generated. So that's a sustainable source of tree. But if you focus on, how would I say, very rare exotic trees, then that of course makes the opportunity potentially a bit more difficult. The investor also looks what is the technology readiness level. This relates to what I mentioned before. So if there's an early lab stage solution, or is it already a solution that you can start building larger production based on? When talking about material technologies, another factor is that you require CapEx investments for the smaller plants. So you need to have sufficient funding plan. You need to have some buffers there, some contingencies. Oftentimes the equipment that you buy, they are not as cheap as originally thought of. And especially in the current inflationary environment, the investments can end up becoming quite a bit larger. So it's good to have some leeway within the funding plan. Good to understand also what is the sustainability of the product. Do you have some fossil-based ingredients? And if there are some, do you have a plan how to replace them? And if you have a production process, how sustainable is that? Do you require a lot of energy? Can you reduce the energy requirement? And do you have a lot of production scrap? And if you do, can you recycle that or utilize that within the production? You need to have an understanding of how you're going to scale the production, how you're going to make the production profitable, and in which scale you're able to make it profitable, and also understand where is the location, and is it possible, for example, to utilize your solution, produce it next to a large industrial mill, for example. So, for example, if there would be opportunities next to SWISS KRONO or Metsä, perhaps those could provide some help. And then look at what is the requirement from the investor regarding the customer traction. Do they require that you have a lot of sales, or just early sales, or do you have letters of intent, or do you have offtake agreements? So this is a short list of some common things that the investors within the forest-based bioeconomy look at. And this is, of course, made from Metsä Group's perspective, but we see that a lot of this topics are quite similar with the investors that we typically discuss with. So that was my presentation today. I'd like to thank you for your time. I have my contact information here, and I assume that Ulf will also share this after the meeting. So if you have any questions or thoughts, please feel free to get in touch with me. Happy to discuss, and wish you a very nice end of the seminar and forum, and hopefully we can get in touch later on. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Eric, for this contribution. Our next speaker is Professor Schwarz from the University of Eberswalde, in German this time. So for those of you looking at us, and please stay with us. It's about a short pitch, and then we switch to English again. Don't panic. Huh? Okay, Professor Schwarz.
Thank you very much for the warmly welcome. I have to hurry up in about 5 minutes to say everything I want to say. Could you please switch your presentation, or will it follow? Okay, thank you very much. If there are any questions, I will do it afterwards, so we can talk together about the numbers which I will present you. Now I apologize for this, but I now switch to German. Und die Frage ist sozusagen, hat denn sozusagen der Holzbau die Qualität Kohlenstoffsenken überhaupt herbeizufügen? Das war mal die Frage, die an mich herangetragen wurde. Und wir haben ja über die Bundesregierung, wir kennen das alles, einen Klimaschutzplan und Klimaziele, die wir sozusagen bis 2030 dann erreichen wollen. Und ich habe es letzthin gesagt auf einer anderen Veranstaltung, wenn wir sozusagen einen 100-Meter-Lauf laufen, dann wissen wir auch, wenn wir der Zweite sind in dem Rennen, dass wir nicht aufgeben. Wir bleiben nicht stehen, wenn der Erste übers Ziel läuft. Herr Hecht, bei Ihnen wahrscheinlich auch so. Sie strengen sich noch mal ein Stück mehr an, um Ihr Unternehmen weiterzubringen. Und auch das müssen wir sozusagen in Deutschland tun, dass wir dort noch besser werden und vielleicht auch Hürden abbauen, die jetzt den Holzbau sozusagen behindern. Wir haben gestern so die Holzbauinitiative sozusagen der Bundesregierung in der Veröffentlichung gehabt. Wir werden sehen, was dort sozusagen daraus resultiert. Ich hoffe, es geht gut weiter. Wir wissen, dass ungefähr, wie soll ich mal sagen, 40 bis 50% des CO2 aus dem Baubereich kommen. Da sind sehr, sehr viele Hürden dabei in Richtung Transport, weil wir dort im Baubereich sehr, sehr viel einkaufen und das auch letztendlich sehr stark wie soll ich mal sagen, einem nach wie vor mineralölbezogenen Transport unterliegt, und wir müssen dort eher auf regionale Wertschöpfungsketten gehen. Dort gibt es auch in der Forschung Überlegungen, inwieweit können wir zum Beispiel auch Normen auflösen und auf regionale bewährte Bauweisen zurückgehen, um dort sozusagen schneller und besser unterwegs zu sein. Was aber interessant ist, sozusagen auch für das Thema der Verfügbarkeit des Holzes, und da greife ich jetzt etwas sozusagen in den Bereich von Frau Hagemann ein. Was steht uns denn zur Verfügung? Diese beiden Diagramme sind sehr interessant, weil sie uns letztendlich etwas sagen, was passiert sozusagen, wenn wir den Bestand einfach stehen lassen und ihn sozusagen als Totholz sozusagen in einen, naja, Urwald gibt es nicht mehr, aber in einen Naturwald überführen. Und was passiert sozusagen, und das ist hier links dargestellt, was passiert, wenn wir sozusagen eine naturnahe Forstwirtschaft betreiben. Und dann will ich Sie jetzt nicht sehr lange auf die Folter spannen. Man kann hier sehr gut entnehmen, dass wir mit Umtriebszeiten zwischen 80, 90 und vielleicht auch 100 Jahren sehr gut, vor allem bei den Nadelhölzern weiterkommen. Das ist bei der Kiefer etwas länger als sozusagen bei der Fichte. Und wir haben sozusagen in der Holzverwendung, wenn wir uns sozusagen um die Buche kümmern, dann doch deutlich längere Umtriebszeiten. Und wir können sozusagen diese 80, 90 Jahre auch gut begründen. Wenn wir uns sozusagen die Holzqualitäten anschauen, dann sehen wir sozusagen, dass irgendwann diese Qualität C sozusagen die anderen beiden Qualitäten, auf die wir sozusagen im Holzbau letztendlich angewiesen sein wollen, sozusagen von Qualität C überholt wird. Und das können wir natürlich sozusagen bei den konstruktiven Hölzern sozusagen nicht brauchen. Herr Hecht wird uns mit Magnum Board sicherlich helfen können. Das ist sozusagen wäre eine Alternative dazu. Ich brauche Sie nicht weiter einführen sozusagen in das Thema, wo geht unser ganzes Holz hin und wie wird es sozusagen aufbereitet. Da will ich schnell sozusagen drüber hinweggehen. Aber was ich sehr interessant fand, das war sozusagen eine Veröffentlichung, sozusagen, die im Rahmen des Schuhmacherquartiers gemacht wurde. Wie viel Holz braucht man denn eigentlich sozusagen in dem Schuhmacherquartier, sozusagen auf dem ehemaligen Flughafen Tegel? Und dann sieht man sozusagen, dass wir dort ganz gut unterwegs sind und wir wissen, dass hier zum Beispiel in dem Schuhmacherquartier ein Rohholzbedarf von 25.000 Kubikmeter pro Jahr ist. Das Schuhmacherquartier ist auf 10 Jahre angelegt. Und dann sehen wir sozusagen, dass wir da 25.000 Kubikmeter ungefähr brauchen. Und das wächst sozusagen in Brandenburg als Rohstoffquelle sozusagen nach diesen Untersuchungen sozusagen vom Deutschen Holzwirtschaftsrat sozusagen in 16 Tagen nach. Man hat dann nochmal dagegen gestellt und hat gesagt, okay, wenn alle Wohnungen in Berlin sozusagen in Holz gebaut würden, dann würden die in Brandenburg sozusagen in 60 Tagen sozusagen nachwachsen. Und wenn wir hergehen und sagen, wir schauen uns eine 100 Quadratmeter Wohnung an, dann wachsen, und das ist jetzt so dann auch für die späteren Überlegungen noch der Aufhänger, die 55 Kubikmeter Holz, die ich sozusagen für eine 100 Quadratmeter Wohnung brauche, sozusagen in ungefähr 5 Minuten nach. Und wenn ich das sozusagen auf Deutschland, auf die Bundesrepublik beziehe, dann bin ich sozusagen dort bei 21 Sekunden, wo das nachwächst. Wenn wir dann hergehen und das etwas umrechnen und die Ziele, die von der Bundesregierung sozusagen nicht erreicht werden, sozusagen diese 400.000 Wohnungen, die ja sozusagen per anno gebaut werden sollten, die wir ungefähr jetzt bei den letzten Veröffentlichungen nach ungefähr bei 280.000 Wohnungen liegen, aber wir gehen mal mit dieser theoretischen Zahl weiter und schauen uns an, sozusagen, das ist der Standard, den wir heutzutage zur Verfügung stellen wollen im Schnitt mit 80 Quadratmeter, dann würden sozusagen 32 Millionen Quadratmeter neu gebaut werden und damit wird sich sozusagen daraus ergeben ein Rohholzbedarf, Schnittholzbedarf von 1,4 Milliarden Kubikmeter, das ist relativ viel. Und damit könnten sozusagen 0,4 mal 10 hoch 6, also 400.000 Einheiten per anno sozusagen in Holz gebaut werden. Wenn wir uns dann die Veröffentlichungen vom Deutschen Säge- und Holzindustrieverband anschauen, dann wissen wir sozusagen, dass das Holz, das Nadelschnittholz und Laubholz sozusagen zu 2/3 sozusagen oder 14 Millionen Kubikmeter sozusagen im Bauwesen landen, 2/3 in der Modernisierung zurzeit und 1/3 sozusagen im Neubau. Und wenn wir uns dann sozusagen diese Zahl dort nochmal zu eigen machen und dort sozusagen diese von vorhin gerechnete Zahl von 44 Kubikmeter sozusagen Schnittholz pro Einheit, pro 80 Quadratmeter Wohneinheit uns anschauen, dann haben wir sozusagen hier eine erhebliche Diskrepanz zu dem, was ich Ihnen vorhin gesagt habe. von ungefähr 106.000 oder 107.000 Einheiten pro Jahr, die wir sozusagen mit dem zur Verfügung stehenden Holz bauen können. Woher kommt das? Da muss es ja eine Ursache dafür geben. Das sind alles, wie soll ich mal sagen, verifizierte Zahlen, die dort eingesetzt werden. Und dort habe ich jetzt mal ein bisschen sozusagen bei den österreichischen Kollegen geklaut. Und zwar hat hier Proholz Austria mal die unterschiedlichen Bauweisen zur Verfügung oder aufgezeigt. Und das ist besonders interessant und das wird sozusagen auch forschungstechnisch unsere nächsten Herausforderungen sein, dass wir unsere Bauweisen sozusagen ändern, dass wir letztendlich dort zu leichteren Bauweisen kommen, wo wir deutlich weniger Holz verbrauchen, um auch auf die Ressourcen dann weiter zurückgreifen zu können. Wenn wir das uns dann weiter anschauen und kommen dann auch schon fast sozusagen zum Schluss, dann haben wir sozusagen 1 Tonne CO2 ist 1 Kubikmeter Holz, das wissen wir und wenn wir dann sozusagen uns anschauen mit den Zahlen, die aus dem Wohnungsbau dort resultieren, dann sehen wir, dass wir sozusagen 51.700.000 Tonnen CO2 sozusagen, wenn das alles in leichten Vorgaben oder in der leichten Konstruktion errichtet würde, dann haben wir sozusagen die Möglichkeit, auch entsprechende Einsparungen zu erreichen. Und das entspricht ungefähr dem, was sozusagen die Kollegin Hafner von der Ruhr-Universität in Bochum sozusagen in der Studie 2017 herausgefunden hat. Wenn 55% der Einfamilienhäuser und 15% der Mehrfamilienhäuser sozusagen in Holzbau errichtet würden, dann könnten wir sozusagen eine Speicherung von 23,9 Millionen Tonnen CO2 realisieren. Und das ist dann doch schon ein ganz erheblicher Betrag. Und wenn wir das dann umsetzen, was sozusagen gestern die Bundesregierung proklamiert hat, dann können wir sozusagen auch mit unseren Holzbauweisen, ob das jetzt Magnumboard ist oder Holzrahmenbau oder wie auch immer, dann können wir doch dort ganz erheblich zur CO2-Senke beitragen und unsere, wie soll ich mal sagen, Pflicht mit unseren nachwachsenden Rohstoffen sehr gut erfüllen. Ich sage mal, vor diesen Zahlen will ich Sie jetzt auch noch schonen. Ich möchte Ihnen aber nochmal sozusagen auch nochmal ein schönes Bild geben, sozusagen, wenn Sie mal auf dem Weg sozusagen nach Paris sind und dort mit dem Auto fahren, machen Sie mal in Metz Station. Das ist das Centre Pompidou und das hat ein japanischer Architekt, Boko Roban, entworfen, sozusagen als Netzkonstruktionen. Und das sind, ich glaube, Spannweiten um die 80 Meter, die dort gemacht haben, 3D-Freiformflächen, wo man sagen muss, das ist super gelungen. Die haben jetzt noch ein Gebäude gebaut in Südkorea, in Golfclub. Da sind sie sozusagen mit den Holzquerschnitten ungefähr auf die Hälfte gegangen. Das sieht noch leichter aus. Herzlichen Dank.
Thanks, Professor Schwarz. We're continuing in English. Fenya? Fenya, are you here? Yeah. I have to say, don't get me wrong, but I love women on stage. Okay, Fenya, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Okay, hello. My name is Fenya. And I will talk a bit about tipping points we already heard from Dr. Hagemann. And Better Earth is defining what each individual company has to do to provide their share of avoiding tipping points. I know some of you have set science-based climate targets, Metze among them, we heard from them, but no company so far has set science-based targets for their land use. So I will show you how to set them and with that have a USP and also be a front runner. Before that, let me give you a short background of a company's land use with the concept of planetary boundaries. There are 9 planetary boundaries within which humanity can continue to develop and thrive. for generations to come. So moving beyond the green zone implies a very high risk of reaching irreversible tipping points. And these three boundaries are operationalized for companies. So we know for these three what ambitions all companies have to ensure we stay in the green zone. And we have discussed climate for a while now, and freshwater and land targets are now the news. So they have been released not even a month ago by the Science Based Target Network, and Better Earth was part of the development process. And now let me give you a quick introduction on land targets and thus an impression of what is expected from companies so that we can avoid these tipping points. There are three kinds of ambitions: no conversion of natural land, the land footprint reduction, and the landscape engagement. And I will make them less abstract for you with examples. So the first target is no conversion of natural land and ecosystems. The goal here is to conserve natural ecosystems, as only 16% of land is remaining intact in primary forests and other natural ecosystems. Plus, we have an unbroken trend of converting natural land for crop and livestock production, and thus undermining ecosystem services we depend on. So how does the target look like? So the ambition level depends on sector and position in value chain. Direct site owners, like Metze, for example, have the most ambitious targets. A timber site owner operating in natural lands would then have to set the target to be 100% deforestation and conservation free until 2025, compared with a 2020 baseline. The second target is to reduce the company's land footprint. So the goal is there to decrease the pressure on land from large companies. How could this target look like? We have the ambition level that is dependent on the sector and also the size of the company. So a wood product producer with over 10,000 full-time employees would have to set the following ambition: to have a 3.5% land footprint reduction in hectares by 2030. And why 2.5 in 10 years? That's the number that would be necessary to achieve the 1.5 degree scenario. So, and also to reach the SDGs based on the scenario analysis from the IPCC report. Overall, that translates into a reduction of 500 megahectare of cropland and pasture land, which is equivalent to Brazil's current natural forest coverage. And then finally, the landscape target. The target is to engage in landscape initiatives, so to improve ecological and also social conditions on the site, also to ensure that the footprint reduction is not achieved with higher use of pesticides, for example. So an example target formulation would be for a manufacturer of paper products with an initiative X covering 10% of the land footprint. We commit to substantial improvement in ecological and social conditions by 2030. So now you have an overview of land targets, and probably ask yourself why the hassle and why all the data gathering. And our answer is because policies are increasing their ambition. For example, with the regulation on deforestation-free products, consumers are more and more sensitive towards the topic, and hundreds of companies committed to zero deforestation globally, among them also large retailers. So if you set yourself a science-based ambition, there will be no surprises in the future, and at the moment you will also be a front runner. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to provide also more insights on land, freshwater, and also climate targets for the flex sector. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Thanks, Fenya, for this interesting introduction. And we are coming closer to technology. Carsten. We have two success stories, I call them. One of them is represented by Carsten Brinkschulte. He is doing something which gets, unfortunately, increasing awareness and relevance and importance. It's forest fire detection elements. So, and he was awarded and well-funded. It's a nice success story. He was last time with us, and I persuaded him to be this time again with us. So welcome, Carsten.
Yes, thank you very much again, and welcome. I'll keep it brief and focus on what we want to achieve with Dryad. Dryad is from Greek mythology, and it's basically nymphs in the trees, tree spirits that live in symbiosis with the trees. And so do we as a company and our products want to achieve symbiosis with technology and nature. And our mission is to protect the forest with technology. And the first application of our technology is on ultra-early detection of wildfires with technology, one of the biggest threats to that ecosystems, obviously. And I think everybody has seen those numbers and those pictures recently, quite impressive. I don't think I need to introduce, but some numbers are really not well known. One of them being that wildfires are causing up to 6 to 8 billion tons of CO2 emissions each year, which is about 20% of all CO2 emissions, which basically means that wildfires are emitting as much CO2 as the entire traffic worldwide, all cars, all ships, all airplanes combined. So if we would put an end to wildfires, we would achieve the same as the complete electrification of traffic. So that's the potential that we are working on, and I'm not saying we achieved that, but that's of course the total addressable market, so to say, in VC speak. Now, the interesting aspect is that most wildfires, contrary to common belief, are actually caused by human activity. Depending on the region, about 85% in Brandenburg it is, for example. And that is caused by arson, reckless behavior, it is accidents, technical faults, all of the above. And lightning is causing about 20% or even less of wildfires. Of course, they're quite damaging, but we are the problem. We are causing the problem, so we should also be the ones to fix it. And that's also not just the CO2 emissions and the aspect of climate change associating with it, because wildfires are accelerating climate change, and we get more wildfires because of climate change and the droughts implied. So it's actually self-propelling. But it's even worse than that, because it also eliminates the habitat for biodiversity. And the biodiversity crisis is by far worse than climate change, because without biodiversity, we simply cannot exist as a species. And we're losing about 3 billion animals in fires each year. And unfortunately, you can say wildfires are also causing a financial disaster with more than $140 billion of direct and indirect damages. That's the figure of the US alone last year. And the good news about that, it enables companies like Dryad and others to create profitable business models to solve these financial problems, and with that also fix, hopefully mitigate the environmental impact of those fires, right? So we are aiming to curb wildfires. And obviously, hopefully, and thankfully, we're not alone. There are satellites being spun up in space already existing, new startups putting dedicated satellites out there. There's a lot of activity in that space, which is great because it gives a great overview. There are camera companies, probably about 50 camera companies that detect fires with optical systems and AI, and they're all good, they're all great. We just thought they're not fast enough, and we wanted to work on that. So we do not want to replace those, we want to complement them. We love the satellites, we love the cameras, we just think they should be complemented with what we call ultra-early detection of fires. We want to detect fires during the smoldering phase, before there is an open fire, before it reaches the tree crowns, before it can be, there's a smoke plume that can be seen from 10 kilometers afar. So we want to catch fires in their infancy, and then enable the firefighters to extinguish the fire before they become dangerous, before they spread out of control, before you need 1,000 firemen or women to fight the fire, when it's still easy to put out. That's our goal. And we've developed a product over the last 3 years we call SilverNet, Silver for forest and net the network, because we create a network in the forest. As a fundamental technology, that's absolutely essential, because without a network in the forest, you cannot do sensors, which is what we actually wanted to do. So we create a telecommunications infrastructure in the forest where there typically isn't any, and then we put sensors in that can smell a fire during the smoldering phase. So based on gas detection, hydrogen, carbon monoxide, VOCs, we're using built-in machine learning to detect the fires, and then we send it over our IoT, wireless, solar-powered mesh network infrastructure in the forest to the cloud, and then provide the geo-coordinate of the sensor that detected the fire directly to the fire brigade, so they can go there and kick butt of that little fire that it hopefully still is. Now we built this, I'm a tech guy, based on telecoms. So I've spent about 25 years in the telecoms industry. And after selling my last company, I thought it's really time to do something useful rather than just smartphones, enabling smartphones. And this is the first time I'm using, for me, technology in a useful manner. But it is telecoms. So we're building an IoT mesh network infrastructure in very large scale at low cost in the ecosystem of the forest. Question that we are being asked a lot is, well, how many of those sensors do you need? And this is one of them. It's a electronic nose, you can say. So you hang it on a tree at 3 meters with a wooden nail. It can stay there for 10 years, solar powered, no batteries. But how many of those you need? Well, a lot. We need about 1 per hectare, roughly. And you can bring down the number by focusing on human areas of human activities, such as along streets, along pathways, hiking sites, camping sites, power lines, train lines. And then you end up with about, on average, about 0.2 sensors per hectare, or one sensor for 5 hectares. And that makes it economically feasible, even for very large deployments. But we still need a lot of them. So that's the downside of our technology, but we think we can work with that. Now, the benefits of this system, I think, is clear. We can detect fires so early that they can be extinguished easily. We can prevent the damages, the financial damages, hopefully save human and wildlife too. But now that we've installed a network in the forest, what else can we do with that network? For the first time, we will be able to detect data using IoT technology from the depth of the forest, which currently is simply impossible. So what we want to aim for in the next 5 years is to build a suite of technologies: soil moisture sensors, tree growth, subflow, chainsaw detection, all of the above, to detect and protect threats in the forest and to help health and growth monitoring. So we are like the Vodafone of the forest, if you want. What we do, we are an impact for profit. So the prime mission of the business is to have an environmental impact, but we have to do it profitably so that we can scale and then have even more impact. So we're engaging only in projects where we can make money and where there is impact. And we're selling them for about €50 a sensor, 15% annual subscription fee, so we get recurring sustainable revenues. We're selling to private forestry, a lot to municipalities, but also to electricity companies. In the US, we've just sold and did a deployment with PG&E in California, one of the largest electricity companies there, and they cause fires with their infrastructure, and we can detect it and prevent from the liabilities that they cause. We're doing a project with Canada Rail right now to prevent the train lines from causing fires, which is an enormous problem for them potentially. But we do a lot in Greece, Spain, Portugal, with municipalities as well. And we have in our hometown of Eberswalde a 400 sensor installation which is just about to go live to protect that. So we're aiming to be profitable. We're still a young company. We made our first sale last year, about 400K euros revenue. This year we've got a big target. Let's see if our sales team achieves that of about 4 million. And next year we want to achieve that magic point of profitability, and after that grow as much as we possibly can. We mostly sell through resellers. We've got about 25 resellers, including Bosch, Vodafone, and a few others, small companies, big companies that are selling our products to the end customer. So we can still remain small with about 40 people now in Berlin and Eberswalde, but we have a much larger network that brings our product to market worldwide. We've had quite a good of support from funding. We had a seed round in 2020. Then the European Union was so kind to support us with 1.6 million with EFRE funds, grants and loans. Can only say thank you, EU. Thank you, Brandenburg. And we closed the Series A round last year to enable us to scale ahead of the profitability that we're aiming to achieve. So that's the current state. We've got a team, 38 employees, 40 actually as of today. Mostly technology people, about 30 in R&D, but we're building now the commercial team support and scaling to grow as fast as we possibly can. And the last slide, we are an impact for profit, and we mean impact. We want profitability to scale, but the ultimate goal is really impact. And we've got lofty goals for impact, just as we have for financials, like every startup has, right? But if we achieve what we want to do, which is to install 120 million sensors by 2030, that's our commercial goal. If we achieve that, we would be able, according to our calculations, to protect about 3.9 million hectares of forest from burning. And if you calculate the CO2 stored in the soil and the trees themselves, that would account up to 1.7 billion tons of CO2. And that would be a remarkable achievement, and that's our goal, our vision, and thank you very much. That was Dryad today.
Well, thanks, Carsten. I guess this was your 138th pitch. You did something like that. Yeah? Okay. Jürgen, are you there? Tecnaro? No? Okay.
Thank you very much for inviting us. It's a bit just-in-time management. Mr. Pitzer is excused, and he sends his regards, but thank you very much for making it possible, so last minute. Tecnaro, the next slide, please. Does that work? Tecnaro was founded in 1989 as a spin-off of the Fraunhofer ICT, and the very core of the company was from the very beginning making renewable resources into materials that can substitute conventional plastics. So that was the core theme from the very beginning. So Tecnaro develops, produces, and distributes thermoplastic biomaterials. And in 2022, Tecnaro and Joma Polytech founded together the Abo Trade GmbH. That's what I will get back to later after introducing our portfolio a little bit. Right now we have 46 employees and over 5,500 different recipes for bio-based materials that fit a plenitude of different applications. So why renewable resources? You see, the next slide, please. You see the fossil age. It's compared to the entire recorded history. It's a very short blimp in human history. It led, on the one hand, it led to prosperity, industrialization, wealth in many regions at least, but on the other hand, it also had very devastating effect. If you just take global warming and the consequences of that and the high impact it has on people as much as nature. What we produce is granules you see on the next slide. So here in the middle you see what we actually produce and what leaves our facilities here. And they are made with natural fibers, like here on the left, hemp fibers. On the right, natural wood fibers, but also natural waxes, natural oils, and of course forestry resources in form of cellulosic, and also pure lignin when it is refined. So in the next slide, you see our 3 different material classes that we grouped our 5,500 different recipes into. That's Aboform, our very first grade of natural resources. It's bio-based, it contains natural fibers, and it's fully biodegradable. Then we have Abofill. It's a mixture of natural fibers and conventional plastics. It's a hybrid material. And then we have AboBlend, which is the broadest class of our different materials, where we use all kinds of commercially available biopolymers, fibers, waxes, oils, to make them into a plenitude of different materials that are suitable for very many different applications, like you see in the next slide. For example, you might have held them in your hand already, you might know them, these text markers, these highlighters, or glue sticks, for example. Or then one thing that we are very proud of is the application in children's toys. Here are some examples that you probably have seen already. And a very big market where it also goes back to the forest in this case are urns that are biodegradable. So in contrast to other urns made of, for example, zin or metals, or then also there just plastic urns or wooden urns that are treated so much with fossil plastic that are also not biodegradable anymore. Here we have urns that can go back into the nature, biodegrade within a certain time frame, and they are mostly in the Friedwald that you probably know. And it's also required that the urns that go to a Friedwald have these qualities that I just mentioned. One of our early projects in the next slide, you have also for the good of trees that we might use later in our products, water reservoirs for trees as an aid for helping them grow in the very beginning. It reduces the diseases that especially trees in city environments or alleys and avenues might catch earlier on, and you have quite a high loss rate in certain area if you plant new trees there. With these water reservoir, we could reduce this loss, and the tree can have a very steady supply of water. It's also not necessary to water them every day and go around distributing water to them. So they have a much higher chance of survival. Then on the other hand, you have flower pots made with natural fibers that can also biodegrade in the soil environment. With the pots, you always have the problem, either you contaminate plastic with soil, which is bad for the plastic recycling, or you contaminate soil with plastics, which of course is very bad for the soil. And with this solution, you can have a planting pot that works just like a normal plastic pot, but in the end, it can biodegrade in the soil and leave no plastic behind. Here's in the next slide, some other examples. Our mock mill, just to see that it's also in the kitchen where you can have our materials. Now, in the next slide, I come to the AboTrade, or the founding base of our AboTrade GmbH. There was a project to develop tree shelters that then, if they stay in the environment after their use phase, after the necessary shelter for the new growing tree, if they stay there and are not recollected, which to be honest is usually the case, they will not leave microplastic, but they can biodegrade in the forest environment. They will be completely eaten up by the microorganisms that are present there and leave a normal, healthy soil. You see here, you can, what we developed here is this tree shelter. You can see here during assembly, they were made in a way that you can strap them to your body. So even if a bit hilly and rough terrain, you have both hands free for either climbing up hills or assembling the tree shelters. And coming from the project, you see in the next slide, the Abu-Trade GmbH was founded. This tree shelter was still improved by some steps, so it's easier to assemble. It's easier to put also this stick in there, and also the cable tie, the zip ties to tie the stick to this tree shelter is made of organic and biodegradable material. So there will be no part of this tree shelter will be a threat to the forest environment, especially not after degradation. The current tree shelter is made to last about 4 to 5 years, stand upright to shelter the tree and safeguard it from browsing deers, for example. It also helps against certain types of weather. It can be flat packed shipping, so in contrast to some other products on the market that take up quite a bit of volume for shipping, they are really flat. They come as sheets in a stack, and you can just strap them to your body and then go on and safeguard the young saplings. It's easy. You can do it with one hand, exactly, you might need the other one to apply it to the stick, but it's fairly easy. Even with very cold hands, as we've tried, you can still manage to assemble that and put it up. And they are produced from us. The granules are produced, and also the final product is produced here in Baden-Württemberg. So it's made in Germany. Yes, by now, I mean, the companies are only half a year old, but we've already put or sold a middle range 5-digit number of these tree shelters. So there's a lot of interest, and I can only invite you if you have to do with reforestation. If you're in this area of work, then I would be very happy to hear from you. And maybe you also have some other things on your mind that might have a solution with a biodegradable material. Then on the next slide, just some awards we already gained, like the Green Brand Award that we've won a couple of times in a row now, Dieselmedaille, Gründerpreis, and European Inventor Award, which we're very proud of. So thank you very much. That was our success story for the Abu-Trade GmbH and our tree shelters.
Okay, thanks, Mrs. Witzer.
Thank you.
Ian, you're the next one.
Follow that and just check how we are. After hearing Technaro, you might have a little bit of deja vu here because our story is very similar. And first, a compliment to the conference itself. I think it's wonderful to have the multidisciplinary element that we have in the room today. I was probably born an entrepreneur, but I'm a third-generation farmer. When my father said, "All of this will be yours one day," he meant the overdraft and the debt, but this is probably a common story. I then went on to do forestry, and the last term, in fact, that I was here in Germany was to study agroforestry, something that sadly had disappeared in England and is now, we're fighting back and bringing this multidisciplinary way of thinking. So really all of that, my background, led me to have an idea about a material and excellently warmer-backed in terms of the presentation before. How could we solve the problem of single-use plastics in forestry? Why should an industry that should be having the very best reputation for sustainability, how can we damage that by putting millions of microbeads of plastic into the environment? So we've come up with a business very similar to what you've just heard, where it's a direct swap out for oil-based plastic. And we've got a lovely tagline, made robustly, not to last. You know, plastic is brilliant. It absolutely does a job. And one of the problems is that in many environmental situations, it's simply lasting too long. So you can read the slide. I presume all the slides will go to everybody afterwards. Yeah. So, you know, no need to read all of the detail. But I think there are some pretend compostable biodegradables out there. Not to criticize polylactic acid. Many coffee cup lids, you will see it, compostable, but only above 65 degrees. And I know both my country and your country here, we don't always get that sort of temperature in order to break things down. So sugar-based, I think it's really important that we have nature-based solutions. I have lots of props with me, so do, the advantage of being in the room, do come and talk to me. And actually, smell. Mine actually smells of sugar, which is such a positive. If you've ever smelled plastic before, it doesn't smell very good. If it's on fire, it smells even worse, but it really doesn't smell. So there's loads of different things that we can do with our material. It's from nature. There are some great opportunities, and one of which we've taken up. There's a major hotel chain in the Maldives that's restoring coral reefs. What a fantastic opportunity. They then get in contact with me to say that the cable ties that they're using are made from plastic, and they're a little embarrassed about that. Well, if I can take embarrassment away from anybody, it's a pleasure. So I spoke to them and they went, right, yes, you might have something there, because rather like the last company, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, yes, I'm an entrepreneur and we're going to make tree guards, nice round pieces of biodegradable material that last just that right amount of time. Now I'm saying that we're a formulation startup business. So whatever the problem you have with a material, like they have in the Maldives, we'll come up with a marine compliant cable tie that will last 1 year. And we're also dealing with a very large German company who are the biggest producers of cable ties in the world, and they're very interested in the patent that we have in order to obviously swap out. The market is vast. Just cable ties alone, such a small thing, $1 billion a year, globally, obviously. And going back before Carsten's fantastic slides and points, well-polished presentations, plastics, 10% of all oil goes into plastic, and it's a 500 billion US dollar business globally. And the damage that it does to the environment happens also to be around $500 billion. You know, how do we allow that to happen? So do get in touch. We have a swap out. It comes from natural sugars and it breaks down to CO2 and water and biomass. And just like my product, I will now disappear. Thank you.
Well, Ian, Ian, I have to utter a compliment. It was a really nice pitch, concise and on the point. It's a nice model for other pitchers as well, getting not lost in general explanations about sustainability for the 198th time, but coming straight to the point. A nice job. Yeah, Stephanie Kaiser. Welcome, Stephanie.
So my name is Stephanie Kaiser. I'm joining from the UK. I'm head of environmental markets and forestry at Nature Metrics. Nature Metrics is a company that can tell you what kind of animal species you have on your forestry sites and how your soil biodiversity looks like. I'm by training a biologist, but have spent most of my life working in the productive forestry sector. And originally, I'm from the Austrian-Swiss border, so please ask me in German after the presentation as well. Okay, how do I move this forward? Right, why would you want to monitor biodiversity in forestry in the first place? Some of you might be aware that there's mounting global pressure to report on nature impact, not just in forestry, but in any industrial sector. And I know from my time in the forestry sector that there is a reputational risk because there's always that perception that productive forests are void of life and of nature. We need to prove that that's not necessarily the case. There's also the TNFD framework coming up in 2023 in September. The other thing is also Can you hear me still? Yes. Yes, the other issue is also that we're looking to make sure that our forests are resilient in the future, and therefore looking at soil biodiversity is essential and can inform future management decisions. But we also know that measuring biodiversity has been super complex, especially if we want to measure it on the ground, because biodiversity is lots of different things. And the particular challenge here is that we need to get data that represents biodiversity on the ground, but data that are robust and consistent, but also that the data collection is actually operationally feasible and financially viable. And in particular, forests like the operational feasibility, as I figured out. So Nature Metrics' mission is to be the world's premier provider of biodiversity data and intelligence. Our business mainly comes on the one hand from the industrial sectors, all the large businesses in extractives, mining, marine, energy, offshore, you name it. And on the other hand, the big environmental NGOs all over the world. And increasingly, we're also working with the agricultural sector and also with private investors in nature restoration and conservation, and particularly in forestry, more and more. So what we do in particular is we generate biodiversity data at scale by detecting DNA traces that are obtained from environmental samples. So on the one hand, if you have a river flowing through your forest, we can take samples and detect give you a list of the species that have been detected there. We can detect anything from bacteria to badgers and elks, and if it's a marine sector, blue whales as well. Great if you want to look at the impact of like a riparian zone restoration or whether you're creating corridors. And then from soil samples, similar to when you sample to look at nutrient levels under different silvicultural regimes, we can help you understand the soil communities, whether it's fungal, bacteria, or soil invertebrates. And last but not least, we also offer a service of molecular identification of insect communities. Now, the key thing here is that we provide a field monitoring service that is operationally feasible. We streamline the field data collection because it's very simple to take the samples and you tick a lot of boxes from one sample. We provide data that are consistent and therefore feed into environmental markets and into wider reporting systems that are coming up after next year. And also these processes, because they're molecular, are highly auditable and standardized, which is what we like, especially in Germany, I guess. So I'm from Austria myself. So we were founded in 2016 or 17, and our technology is globally validated across industries. We have a lab in Guildford in England and another one in Canada, and we've already worked with 100 countries so far. So we support our clients across their biodiversity reporting journey. We start looking, for example, I myself work with forestry projects all over the world. I help them, I look at their forestry maps, I help them with planning where to take the samples. Then we ship standardized data collection kits to any country in the world. You yourselves will collect the data. Here you see someone taking a water sample. And then in our labs, we extract the eDNA from the samples, amplify it, sequence it, compare it to reference databases, and then produce ready-to-use insights that will be reported on using our nature performance monitoring platform, which will be fully live at the beginning of next year. So this will be a platform which is currently being beta tested with Shell and Flora and Fauna International, and it will look basically like these modern investment apps. So at the highest level, you have really simple to understand metrics such as success, yes or no, has your biodiversity improved or not. You get the storytelling element where particular species are highlighted. You have a mapping platform as well. And then you have all sort of the more statistical trends, how your communities are changing over time. And now next step for us will be also to build in earth observation and also partner up with other techs such as bioacoustics, etc. And we've just been in the semi-finals of X Prize Rainforest in Singapore, where we've been testing all these newer technologies as well. So there's soaring interest from the forestry sector in eDNA-based biodiversity monitoring. We have a long-standing relationship with Forest Research in the UK, where we're looking at how does the soil biodiversity look like under different silviculture regimes and also fungal species attached to different tree species. I now have a client, which is a global forestry project portfolio, which is supported and monitored as well by the European Forestry Initiative and the Circular Bioeconomy Alliance. So this is in 8 different countries in the world. We work with the Scottish government to look at sort of how we can use eDNA to feed into higher biodiversity frameworks. We're talking to the North American, Scandinavian productive forestry sector. Then the Land Life company based in Amsterdam is looking at tracking soil biodiversity in woodland creation to see how soil biodiversity changes as we create a new woodland and how we can also use that to participate in environmental markets. Then in the UK, I'm working with the UK Productive Forestry Investment Funds, and they're now looking to, they're one of the first ones who have decided that reporting on biodiversity is a must. Carbon is not enough. And then other projects I have are, for example, eucalyptus plantations, Ghana, Colombian, and of course, all the RED Plus projects where we can add value by way going beyond carbon. That's me. I hope I was within the 6 minutes. If you want to know more, I've kept it very high level because I don't know my audience. Please contact me in German, contact me in Spanish, and learn more. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. So our next presenter, fortunately live on site, Christian Kraulich.
Thanks a lot. And hi, I'm Christian, and we are Forstify. We are with 3 people today. We are around 15 in our team as of today, and we started a couple of years ago with just us 2. And an idea, as we heard, a lot of different problems of friends and forest owners in our home region in the Sauerland in West Germany. And selling wood which was infested by the bark beetle a couple of years back is a major problem. Selling wood in general is quite the hard and complex process, and forest owners themselves are really overwhelmed by the complexity, so they need support there. And there isn't any digital support, any tools, any software on the market which is in place is like thousands and thousands of euros, so nothing a small forest owner could participate from. And that's why we have founded Forstify, a digital operating system for the digital forestry, a set of tools to help everyone in forestry manage their forest, sell and buy timber, get exact and precise measurements, and share that data internationally with just a click. And that is what we have built in the last couple of years, a set of tools, and there's many more to come. As I said, we started with the trading part, as this was the major problem in 2019 and 20 in our home region and for our friends. And selling wood when regionally there was no demand is quite the hard task. So we stood back and tried to connect the local forest owners and forest owners associations with global demand. And that is what we have built with our marketplace solutions, which is like a lead generation platform for demand and supply, focused on Germany and Austria at the moment, going to Europe and internationally within the next couple of months. And how does this work? Pretty simple. You take 1 minute, say what you have to sell, or take 1 minute and say what you want to buy. And the platform is doing all the matchmaking in the background, notifies you when there's a business opportunity arising, even from a supply or a demand side. And yeah, how to create an offer or demand on our platform? You have to know what type of species, what amount, what quality your wood is, and that is typically organized in log lists. Creating these log lists is another really painful task. We were overwhelmed by fax, by handwritten notes sent to us via WhatsApp with thousands of single logs and their dimensions. So we as a buyer or other buyers had no chance to get one single overview over the product and the assortment, the deal that should be made. So overview was lacking. And sharing data via fax or via handwritten notes can't be the simplest and best way to do it. So to give that data a new home, we expanded our platform to the wood data management. So everybody from the small forest owners to the forest workers to buyers can look at the same place on the same type of data without duplicating and copying and potentially manipulating it. And if you want to share the data you have created here, you don't have to export it or print it out. You can just tap and share a link with the channel you want to. So this is pretty easy, and this is pretty fast because typing log lists was a major thing and a major time waste to do that. And yeah, after sharing these log lists and creating these, the next pain point in that value chain is how to get the measurements right. There are a dozen of different measurement types. Some are publicly allowed, some are not, some are just tradition. In some regions, wood and logs have always been counted and measured the same way as my father and his father did. But that shouldn't be something differing in different regions. If I want to buy and sell a product, everybody has to have the same understanding on how the product is described and how that data is gathered. So that's where I'm delighted to show you the next part and the next enhancement of our platform regarding our mobile apps, is to take all the guesswork out of measuring and counting logs. Stop that highly paid experts stand in the forest and are counting logs and doing all these measurements, each log by log, manually. We have more severe issues to face and to create. We don't have the time to count logs. And this is our next expansion of the platform, our wood measurement based on augmented reality and powered by AI, which will get several new versions in the coming future, making measurement, counting, and digital distribution of wood data on a global scale in a matter of seconds. And this is what we have built so far. You can download our app today, but within the last couple of years, we got a lot of new users. These are forestry businesses in Germany and Austria. And every one of these has a demand or an offering. And that's where we came in and tried to connect them to each other. We have clients like Thüringen, the state of Thüringen, or Bavaria, and do large projects, but we don't have any machines or harvesters ourselves. So we give these orders and jobs and share them with our user base. And yeah, that's what we are building our business on, and that's what we are doing in Germany as of today. These tools should be available to everyone, as I said in the beginning. So measuring with AR, sharing log lists with a link, And yeah, creating new business opportunities worldwide is something everybody should be able to do. And that's why every small forest owner can join Forstify for around €5 a month. For forest workers who need these tools every day in their job, it's around €50 per user and per month. And there's a lot of exciting stuff happening next, like the AI-based measurement I've already told. And yeah, one other thing, very interesting part is to analyze the data we have already gathered. We have millions of single logs distributed and captured with our system within the last couple of years. We know where, in which region was supply and where was demand. And our vision is to make that data usable for everyone and not storing them away in some cellar to forget about deals that were made in the past and can enlighten us in the future. And yeah, that's what we are building right now. That's what's coming up. And I'm happy if you join the digital forestry right now. Thank you.
Yeah, nice pitch. Thanks, Christian. Is our friend from Israel online? Dan? Okay. Dan, hello, welcome.
Hello. Hello. And
okay, you are live. You can proceed. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard, for all this organization and for my participation. I grew up near forest in Ben Shemen. And each time I see or hear a forest fire, it's a heartbreaking situation. And I was thinking a long time of what we can do for this problem. And it was very amazing to hear that each time there's extreme winds, the crews, the firefighters have to wait for the wind to calm down. And when we examine the dynamic of the fire progression, we see that when the winds are calm, the water reaches the fuel and suppresses the fire. But when we have strong winds, extreme wind, in these extreme situations, the water does not reach the needed position. Even if the planes can get there, a lot of times the planes do not reach the situation, or they don't take off because the winds are too strong. So there's no control on these runaway wildfires. And what I understood, that control lines are built enabled to stop and contain these fires, and they use heavy, slow-moving bulldozers or manual work. And these are extremely slow, and the bulldozers kind of just cut through the forest, drilling down trees. In 1946, Van Wagner found out that if we reduce the treetop canopy under a certain threshold, so that we won't have a treetop fire or canopy fire, these fires are hundreds of times much fiercer and intense than the surface fires, and firefighters cannot work on these fires. And if you have these extreme winds, so nothing stops them. And what I understood is that if we remove the leaves, or most of the leaves, by this Van Wagner concept, we will be able to control these wildfires in these extreme situations. When I presented this to our firefighters that fought these extreme wildfires, like the Carmel fire in 2010, the chief firefighter that was managing this firefight, told me that what they need from me is to bring the fire from the treetops to the surface fire. They can take it from here. And what I understood with my work with the lasers, that using a laser we can cut off these leaves and perform this control line dynamically. The market is amazing. It's large, it's in need. They need new tools to work with these things. With all their heroic work and the new technologies on the market, they don't manage to work in these extreme wildfires. We are seeking funding to build a tool to bring it to the field to help and assist the firefighters. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for the audience, all of you, and SWISS KRONO.
Okay. Thanks for your interesting pitch, Dan. Okay, are we happy with Hans-Peter? No. Okay, next presenter from Munich. I studied in Munich, I forgot to mention. I love Munich. Yeah, it's a nice place. Very expensive, very fancy. And this guy is from Technical University of Munich, and he was upon to abandon his pitch and said, "Don't disappoint me." And this threat was enough to welcome you. Welcome.
All right, yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm actually from Berlin originally, not too far away, but I live in Munich now. And I want to give you an overview of what we're thinking about at Munich regarding forestry. And you know that there's a big carbon mitigation potential of forests. And this is in 3 parts. One is the forest sink in the vegetation and the soil. There's also the product sink, like we see in this large wooden skyscraper, which is in Norway, which is containing a lot of carbon in the wood. But also then there's the substitution effects, when wood replaces carbon-intensive materials like concrete or cement. And to give you some ideas about the numbers, the forest sink in Europe is about 315 megatons of carbon equivalents. The product sink is more than 10% of that. And the substitution effects are about the same dimension. However, this is a very, very, very theoretical value, so do not cite me on that value, because it assumes that every product is replacing concrete, steel, cement, aluminum, or so on. And of course, this is not the fact. Some things have always been built by wood. Sometimes wood replaces older wood. But it just gives you an idea of how big that impact could be if we stopped using wood altogether. And I also call this only the carbon mitigation potential, not climate change mitigation, because carbon is not what we're actually interested in. We're interested in surface temperature, but carbon is the easiest lever that we have. But there's other things like the surface roughness influencing heat fluxes, the albedo influencing how much energy is radiated back into space. And we also need to consider this and not only carbon. Plus, there's many other ecosystem services like water availability, timber production, biodiversity, and many, many others. And this is what we looked here. We wanted to think about forest management considering all these ecosystem services, including climate change mitigation of different aspects, but also other ecosystem services, and considering the large range of uncertainty that we have considering the future climate, including disturbances, wildfires, and so on. So what do we want to do? We want to create large-scale forest management portfolios that think about all these different ecosystem services, but also think about these many different climate change scenarios, disturbance scenarios. And how can we do that? There's a thing called robust multi-criteria optimization. And I want to briefly walk you through this. This is a very complicated graph. Let me see if that, does that work somehow, this pointer? It's very tiny, but maybe you can see that red. Maybe you can see that red dot. So just let me walk you briefly through this kind of complicated figure. On the x-axis, we have a number of different ecosystem services. So for example, you have harvests for long-lived products like construction or furniture. You have climate change mitigation, evapotranspiration, water availability, and biodiversity. And on the y-axis, you have a score from 0 to 1, meaning 0 is some sort of management is bad for an ecosystem service, and 1 is good compared to the other ones. So purple, for example, is completely unmanaged forest. This is also thinking about Europe here now. So what you see, for example, unmanaged forest here in purple is very, very bad for harvest, because we don't harvest, but it is very good for biodiversity. here on the top. So there's some ecosystem services that are well provided by management and some that are not provided very well. And another thing is that you also see a spread over the y-axis. And what does this mean? This means that for one climate scenario, a sort of management is good in an ecosystem service and bad in another. And this, what I'm showing here, is unmanaged forests in terms of climate change mitigation. In a scenario where we do not replace products or do not replace how we create concrete, steel, and so on, if we don't make this greener, there's still a big impact of wood products in 50 years concerning climate change mitigation. However, if we replace products with, I don't know, hemp or other materials with which you can build, this would mean that the climate effect of wood is decreasing. So depending on the climate scenario, a forest management system can be good for climate mitigation or bad. And this is the same case for other systems or for other management forms. And what our approach does is it takes the left graph, which is different forest management forms in the different colors, which are all over the place. Some are good in some case, some are bad in some case, some are good in some climate scenarios, some are bad in some climate scenarios. And we create a portfolio of different management forms that tries to provide all these ecosystem services. And this is what you see on the right. This is the portfolio that comes out in this site in Sweden. And in the middle, you see the provision of different ecosystem services, and you see that they're all provided in a balanced way, meaning regardless of the climate scenario and regardless of the ecosystem service, we can say that this forest management portfolio has a good impact on all these ecosystem services. But what does this mean for Europe? Just look at the top left figure here for a while. So the left is the proposed forest management portfolio for Europe. And what we see is a large fraction of unmanaged forests is very good for different ecosystem services, and also a switch to more broadleaf species. However, this entails the question, how are we going to supply the wood that we want to use for things like new European Bauhaus, for wood construction, other woody materials, and also if we change so much to broadleaf species, which are currently mostly burned in Europe, how are we going to build with these different tree species? So this definitely leads to the question, well, we can make our forests climate fit, but then we'll have many, many other different problems. And in the next study that we're currently preparing is trying to consider the wood demand as a constraint. How can we optimize these different ecosystem services, but also guarantee that the wood demand is fulfilled? And then we, of course, see that on the very top left, the purple fraction of unmanaged forest decreases quite a lot. And also the shift to broadleaf species decreases quite a lot because we would still need all this conifer forest. So this is just a very high-level idea of what we're doing. I'd be very happy to talk to actual forest managers and people working more directly in the field. We're always in our little ivory tower at the universities, but it would be very interesting to talk to you about what you think of this and yeah, how we could really try to make European forests climate smart and also consider all these other ecosystem services. Thank you.
Thanks, Konstantin. And now we are coming to a hands-on presentation with a hands-on product. Roland, stage is yours.
Thank you, Ulf. So, my name is Roland Priebe. I'm co-founder and, oops, I have to push the button once. Yeah, this. My name is Roland Priebe. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Agrotech. Our company name stands for Agriculture and Forestry Technology. That is what we're doing. And today I want to introduce to you a product we are developing, a machine which we think can be a special or maybe even great product in the field of business we all share. And so, this question, what makes a product special or maybe even great? We look at it this way. It solves a problem that has not been solved before. It shows out-of-the-box thinking different from any other device existing so far. And today it's important that it helps reducing the CO2 footprint of mankind. So we really believe our product, our machine that you see here, can contribute in this. So would ask, what the hell are we doing to come to this assessment? We are developing a machine for the so-called value wood delimbing. Now, some of you might ask, what is value wood delimbing? And if you want to generate high-quality timber for furniture, veneer, or building purposes, you want wood which is free of knotholes, scars, etc. And to achieve this, you have to cut the branches of certain tree species during the life cycle of the tree while the tree is still growing in width, but without hurting the tree. That is exhausting and hard manual work so far, and done worldwide. And we can now mechanize this by the product you can see on the picture behind me. And the machine goes, the chassis runs up the tree in a spiral movement. The machine automatically detects the branches to be cut and finally does so by using a smart scissor-based system. The machine is fully battery powered. It can be operated by just one person. It's designed as an IoT machine, and via a cloud service the customer can track the working progress. So it's a patented technology. We have a real good patent on this, and within the following weeks we are planning to register a second patent on an even improved working process. Unfortunately, for legal reasons, I cannot show this right now. But getting back to the customer value, the plantation owners or forest owners buying this machine can raise their profits by large margins. We can reduce labor costs by up to 75% or help them raise the generation of value wood by up to 50%. And so another important issue is we can also help fighting wildfires by cutting the lower dry branches of trees when a wildfire occurs, because the wildfires are spreading much, much faster through these lower dry branches as if they are removed. So this is also an issue we are looking at. We are already talking to universities and organizations in Germany, Canada, Portugal, and Brazil regarding fighting the wildfires. So getting to a summary, we are developing a brand new product in an interesting field. It's green technology. We can help reduce the CO2 footprint of mankind. We can help fighting wildfires, and we can help our customers to generate lots of profits. So for the final steps for serial production, we are right now looking for investors. Some of you are present. Starting at about 150,000 euros, we can offer participation in a real great project. And yeah, if you want to invest in some sustainable machine, just contact me. Thank you very much.
So, Hans-Peter is with us. Hans-Peter, welcome.
Hello. Kannst du mich hören?
Yes, I can hear you, Hans-Peter. The stage is yours. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know how much time you've got. I sent the teaser. If we can't make it work here, let me just briefly talk you through. My name is Hans-Peter Wiese. I'm the owner and advisor of Veretum Consult. I'm currently advising a client which is active not in a digital business model, but in a real model, i.e. this company is a sawing, planing, and impregnating plant, i.e. it is working with real timber, which you can touch and saw and plane and impregnate. So this is not a digital business, but an inverted comma, real business. This is located in eastern Bavaria. It is a very stable business. It has a very profitable growth over the last few years. Currently, the sales are above 40 million and the EBITDA is above 7 million. So it's, as said, it's located in eastern Bavaria. The production site has some 36,000 square meters. The capacity is 250,000 cubic meters per annum, and it has a very interesting product range, serving a number of clients with a range of garden timber, i.e. fences, wood for producing wooden huts, but it's also actively serving the packaging industry and the palletten industry. the employee number is about 80. The sales this year will be approximately 42 million with a 7 million EBITDA. Most of the production is being exported to Scandinavia, roughly slightly less than half to Germany. The argument for any purchaser potentially being interested in it, be it either strategic buyers or financial investors, is that this has a very steady business. It's an efficient production. It has secure supply of top quality Bavarian pine and spruce, and it has a very solid management and growth potential, which has been demonstrated both before and after the COVID period. The company does not produce any waste. Any waste that is being produced is either being sold or being used to reduce own energy cost. The company offers quite an interesting range of value-added services depending on the appetite of the client. Just an example, it provides not just the woods in different sizes, but also added with labelings, so it can be directly put to the shelf by the customer. The company is located in a number of top quality woods in eastern Bavaria, and for that reason it has a small radius with low transport costs. Interesting for an acquirer is that the company has still further growth potential. The site is big enough. There's a train nearby, adjacent to the premises, and there are plans available for building a second sawmill line, which would also increase the capacity and the product range offered by the company. Sorry for the problem of not being able to share it, but I'd be happy to send it to anybody interested. Again, my name is Hans-Peter Wiese from Viretum Consult. You'll find myself wiese@viretum.com or under www.viretum.com and on the web. Thank you.
Okay, Hans-Peter, thank you very much. Okay, coffee break. We're meeting at 12:15 for our next pitch. Thanks.